Hi, I'm Marie Moynihan, and I'm the CMO at Zyte. And what we do at Zyte is we help customers or companies access web data. So we do this in two ways. Customers can either use our products if they're actually extracting the data themselves and it helps them get that data, or they can come to us and we will actually get the data for them. And our customers have many use cases around web data. It's very varied, actually. It's kind of one of the reasons I love working here. What people are doing with web data today is just amazing. But the two main use cases we hear over and over again are, one is around analytics. So people are doing an awful lot of price intelligence, competitive analysis, brand monitoring. And the other big use case is customers are actually using our web data to feed their products or services that they're offering. So it's kind of an operational use case and it's core to their offering of what they're building themselves.
Okay, perfect. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got into marketing.
When I look at my friends, I'm probably one of the few people that actually did marketing in college and stayed in marketing. You see people come into marketing from a lot of different fields, but it's definitely, something that I've always been involved in. And I've always been involved very much in kind of demand generation type roles. That's where I kind of grew up. But I suppose what excites me about marketing and why I've stayed at it is that combination between data and creativity. So I'm pretty analytical as a person. I love data. I spend most of my time in Excel or in our BI tool, looking at the numbers, projecting trends, seeing what's working. But I think that's kind of only one half of the story with marketing. And the other part is you need to be creative, right? You need to have a kind of a want or a need for storytelling. I think it's very important that you balance those. And that suits me because I actually do have quite a creative side and I'm quite analytical. I actually think I should have maybe been an engineer in a different world. But anyway, there's not that much difference anymore between marketing and engineering. That's kind of been my journey. And the other thing, I've always been really, really stayed close to sales. I think if you can grow up in different tracks in marketing, I've always been on demand gen, so kind of almost been that partner to sales and driving leads and stuff like that.
Amazing. Okay, good. I studied art history and Italian in university, so I guess it makes sense that I live here, but not make sense what I do for a job.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So I guess we're in April. It's, 4 months into the year, which is crazy. What is your main focus right now? Where you're kind of putting all your energy?
There's two big things that we're mulling over, I suppose, in the marketing team and as a company overall. We've had a very much a kind of traditional inbound model for our leads. So demand generation has driven the leads. We're lucky enough to be in an industry where there is demand to capture. And so we've very much had just an inbound model. And obviously that's going to plateau over time. So as we grow, we need to now start to flex a kind of an outbound ABM model. So we're standing that up in the company right now. And it's different, right? It's needing new skills, new people, new kind of thought processes. So we're definitely deep in that at the moment. And the other big thing, I suppose, we're watching over time that mix between our non-paid demand and our paid demand. And it's kind of gone a bit too high on, like, we're paying for a lot of our demand. So we're looking to grow our non-paid demand, which is kind of organic search. And then we're investing a lot more in content. So those are the kind of two big areas right now. They'll probably be different in the second half of the year as we try and fix those. But those are the things keeping me awake at night.
Amazing. I actually sit beside the SEO girl in our office. So I'm all familiar about keywords and organic searches. I feel like I've absorbed it through osmosis sitting beside
her. Yeah, you've just listened.
Hearing her and her calls, purely because I remember when I started, I was like, what do you even do? I don't really know what you do.
Yeah. Well, especially if you studied languages and
like, what's SEO? What does that mean? Okay, perfect. So what would you say, I guess, is the biggest challenge that you are facing or marketers are facing in 2025?
I suppose, look, we're all trying to figure out the AI world. And we're trying to figure it out from what does it mean for our teams, right? So we're trying to figure out how much of it can we help our teams be more efficient, right? So that's definitely something we're looking at. But I think bigger question for marketers is around AI search. And I know we talked about non-paid demand, but I really see the world of search absolutely changing, and all of the rules around search that we were used to, and we were used to working with Google, not that you ever knew why they ranked you or not, but you knew what the rules were, you knew what the framework was, and you kind of, you worked within that. I think with AI search, it's going to blow that wide open, and there's going to be an awful lot more real world, like, tell me this, I want to know, like, people will be asking questions of AI and AI search in a way that's very different to keywords. So long tail search, and so getting ready for that, making sure we've got the right content to answer those questions is something that I think all marketers are looking at right now.
Yeah, definitely we are. I know that we are looking at how we rank in AI and where we come up if you ask the question. Obviously, we chatted a little bit about sales and that you've sort of worked always on the growth demand side, which is great. So how is the relationship with sales and marketing right now? What initiatives are they most excited about when you bring them to them, or are they bringing you initiatives that maybe they want to try?
Like I've said, I believe sales and marketing, it's a partnership. I've always had a really good relationship with our CRO or sales team. We're in the same meetings. We're all now KPI'd around pipeline. There's no, these are my numbers and they're your numbers. We're all KPI'd around the same. I think that really helps and level sets across the teams. Ultimately, it's bookings and revenue, right? Like, that's what everybody cares about. So focus your teams on those numbers, and then I think you'll get them working together. You won't get that kind of constant back and forth or divide. You'll still get it, and healthy debate is always good. But I think just, building pipeline is what marketing should be on the hook for. And then closing and all of that is obviously that's the handover to sales. We can't get involved there. But I think aligning around that key metric is really important. And you've heard load of the MQLs are dead. We don't operate on MQLs. We don't operate on SQLs. We operate on kind of pipeline build. And it's just really helped the conversation.
Yeah, to keep everyone KPI towards the same things is great as well. Keep everyone on the same playing field. Is there marketing campaigns or initiatives you've run that sales jump and are excited that you're doing, or do they have ones that they prefer? Are they, I know we're talking about sort of, organic growth and things like that. That doesn't probably excite the sales team to the extent of.
Really, no. So like I've said, we've kind of two offerings we have where company or customers can come and look for the products to help them extract the data, and that audience tends to be very technical, right? So it's developers, engineers, data scientists who tend to not love talking to marketing, let's face it, or sales. And so we've invested the kind of last year on developer advocacy, and that right now sits in the marketing team. And we have kind of put an umbrella over it around developer engagement. And it's, I've hired developer advocates, and that's been kind of a new initiative for us. And I think it's working out really well, where they're having kind of developer to developer conversations. They're discussing things. They're talking about how best to use the tool. Maybe, did you know this? Did you know that? But really just showing them how to do it rather than kind of marketing, kind of explaining it. And so our sales team are very excited about that. And we did a lot of last year building up a kind of an organic community. We've doubled down on it now, and we have kind of come out of 2024 with Extract community that's around 16,000 developers, and it's continuing to grow. And so we're continuing to hire and invest in that developer engagement. And I think that's something that excites the sales team, because then when they're ready to speak to sales. They're actually just ready to speak to sales, as opposed to kind of like sales needing to be their first touch point with Zyte. So we're kind of trying to put developer engagement at the core of for that ICP.
Yeah, and that's super interesting. And like, you know, it's always good to have someone speaking your customer's language to them. Like developers want to speak to developers. Yeah, they don't want to speak to me. They don't want to speak to marketing. They want to be spoken to in a way that they understand and feel like when they speak back, they're going to understand. So it's super interesting that you've led, and obviously getting developer advocates is a great way to do it, and have sort of your own champions, but that understand the product and I guess the customer's needs and their wants. And then when it does come to sales, they're, like you said, ready to speak to sales, not asking questions that sales are like, let me ask my technical person. Okay, perfect. Let's go through. Okay, so what marketing strategies, obviously the advocates is amazing. Is there any other that you think have been the most successful or wielded, I guess, the best engagement or lead gen?
Yeah, look, we're still probably over reliant on PPC. That's something we're trying to kind of break away, but it works for us, especially in our market, which is kind of demand led. There's like, it's people who are extracting data from the website. It usually either breaks or they can't, fix it, and they need an instant solution. And so they go to search, and there we are, right? So it works really well. It's still driving a huge amount of our demand. And so that's kind of great. But other than that, I think the investment in content, like we're really trying to grow our non-paid demand. Content is the core of that for us. And so we've just, again, kind of invested recently in a content team. It was sitting in kind of various different teams. We've pulled them together now and hired a kind of senior editor to come in, because there's a lot of, we found we were really good at, again, having developer content, so developer to developer content, but then above that, a layer above that, like thought leadership, kind of wider market discussions around what's happening in our industry. There was a kind of a gap for us on that content. And so to kind of build the brand awareness and get our name out there, we felt like investing in content was the next big thing we did. And so, yeah, that's definitely a big focus this year, is to build up that kind of thought leadership. The other big thing out of event is, I suppose 5 or 6 years ago, we had been to a lot of events. And we were finding that our core audience wasn't there. So while you would expect them to be, they just weren't there. So we made the decision, having been to a couple of industry events, to actually stand up and host our own industry event. So it isn't a Zyte event. It's a kind of extract summit event. And, we invite our competitors, it's an industry event, and we host it. And that has just grown and grown. We're in like year 6 now. We're going to have one in Austin and Texas next year. And then we're going to have one in Dublin as well for our European customer base. And that's been really successful for us as well, as a way to meet customers face to face and actually have a full agenda that's all around our topic, rather than a little snippet about it at a big industry event. So we get the right people in the room, and so it's kind of grown, and now kind of from there as well has fed this community that I've talked about. So that's been really successful as well.
That's amazing. You saw that it wasn't the right audience. You just started building your own. It is always kind of those things with trade shows of, do developers actually want to be there?
Yeah.
Probably
yeah. Or if they're like, a lot of data extraction and stuff is written in Python, and you would have Python events, but they're not the only people there. So again, you may be able to find some of your ICP, but there's a much broader topic happening. Whereas this whole event is definitely designed for people who are extracting data and need to access web data. So it's a nice 2-day event where they can really go deep on that topic.
Amazing. Perfect. I was going to sort of talk about, I guess, field marketing and what's in store in terms of events. And obviously Austin and Texas is super exciting. In terms of engagement, what was one of the best events you've hosted? But it seems like it's probably the summit.
Yeah. definitely.
I guess off of that, because you are host, you came up with the idea and internally and the company's running it and hosting it. How do you look at ROI from something like a summit like that?
Yeah, I suppose it is a little easier for us because it is our own event. So we have absolutely all of the people who've registered, all of the people who've attended. So they go into campaigns and we can track then any revenue associated, right? So it's a very nice tie back. When we first started it, it takes a bit of time, right? And I would still probably put events under brand for me. That's where I associate the spend. So I don't see them as direct lead generation or direct, I find right now, I think marketers and CMO will find it much harder to get brand spend through, right? Like everyone's budgets are being looked at, things that you would have spent before are getting questioned. And so I feel like the event I put under brand, and actually the investment in community I also put in under brand. So I don't put a direct ROI on it against X amount of leads or X amount of revenue, but we have to invest in brand. And I think the company has been very open to that kind of brand investment because, your CEO goes to that event, he mingle, you can live it, right? You can live and feel the benefit of an event beyond just an ROI number to bookings, right? So I think that's worked really well and has helped keep our brand spend at a level that I feel is needed as we, for awareness for the company. I think without those things, without Extract and without the community to invest in, I'd probably find it a lot harder to get any kind of that brand budget in an investment kind of agreed.
Yeah, I mean, going into the boardroom and saying I need this X amount of money for something that is intangible, essentially, like, oh, it'll increase brand awareness, but we don't have a way to track it. And I mean, we hear it all the time. I do a lot of sort of webinars for the Ortus Club, and one of the topics is like calculating ROI from events. And it's really like, well, what are you going in to achieve? Are you looking at pipeline growth or lead gen? Are you looking at awareness and, trying to create a name in a new market or a new segment? So, but I mean, it's great that they seem to also, appreciate that investing in the brand is needed and that you've kind of segregated out, but they're still funding it, which is always nice.
There is, yeah. And look, they'll ultimately want to see ROI from it, right? And they'll want to see ROI from the community. Everybody does. And we can track ROI from the event. We can see deals that have closed, like X amount of months after the event. We will have salespeople tell us. And I would say this, right? Like sometimes people forget to go into the details on events, right? So like customers have come back and said, look, we're committing to a larger deal size because of the event, because we sat down with you, we met your CEO, we're trusting you, right? You're building trust with that customer. If you don't go into the notes, sometimes you don't see that, right? So I would recommend all marketers go back through everyone that attended the event and look at the meeting notes on those opportunities and make sure your events are getting attributed, right? Like, because I think it's worth doing that, right? As a marketer, sales won't think of it. They don't care. You know what I mean? They're on to the next deal, right? But I see it in the narrative. I see it in some of the notes. But then I say, hang on a minute, why are they not, why is this campaign not attached to it then so we can get attribution? So, you need to do the due diligence in Salesforce, and nobody's going to do that for you unless marketing does it. Because, yeah.
Spoken like a true data audit. But it is, and it's something that we've had conversations about before is having, after an event or before an event, that clean data, like tracking it in the CRM is the only way that you're going to be able to say in 9 months' time, yes, maybe they were influenced by sales and another campaign, but they did also attend this event. So that has to be included in the fact that it closed, like we have to attribute it.
And I actually think for me, this is one of the really exciting things around AI as well, because I feel AI can take a lot of the notes and a lot of that kind of data that you can't consume across multiple opportunities and pull out, was extract summit mentioned, was meeting, so I think you can use AI really cleverly to try and give you better insights into your data. I think that's what I'm really excited about.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. So in events, what are the most significant challenges you face when hosting events?
The only thing I would say is speakers, right? And you probably would find this too, right? Like, one of the big things we have to fight against all the time is people wanting to come in and do a sales pitch. And we have really set a high standard on the quality of talks where, we will go, no, sorry, it's a sales pitch. Like, if you've got something exciting to say or you're building something new, come and talk to us about that, but don't give the pitch. And so, because nobody wants to listen to that, right? And I think we've had a lot of compliments on the quality of our talks, and we have allowed our competitors to speak, but it has to be of value, right? And so I think that's one thing events need to watch, right? Because marketers, we want to pay for speaking slots. They're part of deals, yourself, you can, if you take a stand, you can get a speaking slot. So monitoring the quality of the speakers, I think, is something that everyone in events needs to watch, because people have a low tolerance for that when they're there.
Yeah, no, and I guess we understand that. Like, all of our roundtables are pitch free. That's like our blanket rule. Like, you cannot come in here and give your 5-minute speech. No one wants to hear it. Or we're here for a specific topic. If you have something to add to that topic, please do, but we don't want to hear about your company. It's not what we're here for. What career advice would you give to someone starting in marketing today?
I suppose back to a little bit about what's happening for me is that combination of data and creativity, and make sure you're bringing both of those every day. You can't be all creative. You can't be all data. I think really successful marketers will manage to blend those two. I think, the other thing I would say to everybody is lean into sales. You need to be their partner, like lean in there, be partnering with them, understand pipeline, own KPIs that the business care about. Nobody at the board level cares about MQLs, right? They care about how much pipeline and how much opportunities you're bringing to the business. Make sure whatever you're doing is connected to that.
What do you believe is the biggest opportunities for a CMO today that might not have been available, 10 or 15 years ago?
I think we'll see a lot more CMOs become CROs. And I don't think that was something that was really thought about before. I've seen some great CMOs lean into the CRO role and be really successful. At the moment, actually, we're without a CRO, we're hiring, and so I've started to take on the new business team and help there. And I think that those roles are kind of blending, especially for, I think, CMOs who've grown up in kind of demand generation and know and understand the sales pipeline as well. I think they bring in, I like that kind of blend of CRO, CMO, because it brings insights, right? Storytelling, and because, I think we are in a new era of sales as well, right? Cold calling, forms, connecting with people who aren't in market. Like, I just think that's gone, especially with AI now, who can send like 1 million emails every day for you. Like, where's the competitive advantage, right? And I think we need a new approach, right? Where you're trying to connect with the people that are in market, the people that are actually looking. And that's very much a research data. And then when you get them, what are the stories you want to tell them? So if you think about the skill sets needed, a lot of that come out of maybe marketing that wouldn't have been there previously.
Yeah, no, agree. In our age of AI, you have to sort of break through what everyone else is doing if they're doing the same. So like using that data to find the right target of people and then going to them with a more, bespoke, actual thought out approach. Okay, so my last question I was going to ask, if you could describe the role of a CMO in one word, what would it be and why?
So you're going to laugh because I did see that question and I was like, oh, I just couldn't come up with a good word. So guess what? I asked ChatGPT. And they came up with something like strategist, and I was like, oh, that's boring. So I was like, that's boring. Give me some fun ones. But anyway, they came back with, which I thought were funny, rainmaker and storyteller. And I thought they're not bad to actually describe. I know they're 2 words, but kind of rainmaker for like driving demand and making it rain, and then storyteller for crafting the brand narrative and making sure we've got good stories in market. So those are the 2 words. I know it's 2, but
don't worry, I'll allow it. I mean, honestly, we've heard everything under the sun at this point. So someone earlier told me champion was their word.
I know. Juggler.
Like, interesting.
Yeah. Nice. Well, look, have a great weekend and love you.
It was lovely to meet you. I'll speak with you.